Welcome to The Men Who Chase Geese.
You will like this episode.
Hi, I'm Solemn, and this is a robot.
Okay, so today's episode will be covering the arc of the Ryloth.
Yes. The Ryloth arc, to me, is the best arc of the season one. It's one of the best arcs of the series. It has really just about everything in it that you'd like. I'll just let you know right ahead. It's a 5 out of 5 for me. I usually wait till the end, but I'll tell you it's a brilliant show. So it's broken up into the arc into 3 parts. The first part is kind of the space campaign, which is also, if you want to translate it into like a World War II motif, which the show repeatedly does do, basically that's the air campaign. And then you have the next part, which is the land campaign, and then the final part of that land campaign. So the first part, I'm just gonna do it by part, and then we'll do that way, and then that's the only way to do it. The first section, what you see is the Anakin and Ahsoka pairing, and you basically see how, well, again, what a brilliant general he was. And you also see how Ahsoka is learning about command for the first time, and having to take responsibility not for herself but for other people, and the effect it has on her. And you see why it's hard, but also you see how she has to learn it, and it's a hard lesson for her to take, but she learns it. But it's not an easy lesson. You put your 5 cents in there.
So the first part is basically Ahsoka needing to be rescued, and then she gets rescued, and she gets all upset because everyone's dead except her and Anakin wants to push forward, and she's like, we don't have the troops, we can't do it, it's suicide. And he's like, well, unfortunately that's war, that's what we have to do. We don't have any better resources, so you're going to have to suck it up and do it. And then he goes off and does his thing, and all the clones are the ones that are being like, hey, Anakin was the good leader, we don't really trust you, and we don't trust you as well as we trust him. And so this is this moment where she realizes that, like, he's up on this level, and she's only seen as this inexperienced Padawan. She's like, no,
but
I gotta fix this. I'm gonna take the lead on this one, and they successfully do it.
Well, as I say, the space battle was really well done. It was excellent. I thought the whole thing was really nice. As I said, and you had this back and forth between Anakin and her about the nature of command and what it means, what has to be done. And that she needs to see more of the big picture, which she doesn't always see. Now, she accuses him of the same thing. But the fact of the matter is, the reason Anakin gets away with it is because he's usually correct. So he can get away with it. And that's what always that does happen. But, as I say, the first part is really nice, and they have to break this blockade. And the general they're opposed to is good. Again, he's a German general. The German, he has a cap on and a pip on it. And that's World War One. German almost naval uniform, kind of exaggerated, but it's what it is. And he talks almost with like a Germanish accent. So they're clearly going for that motif. And it's a World War II motif through this Ryloth especially, and you see it a lot. So in the end, she learns her lesson. They break the blockade. Anakin shows what a brilliant general he is by taking a fraction of the forces that he had before with no help, and is able to find a way to get victory and break the blockade. And you also see, again, another motif that runs through the whole series, period, which is that the Republic has no troops. That is, not to say there's no troops, it has troops, but it's spread all over the galaxy. They're fighting on 1,000 fronts, and they can never spare any more than what they have. So everybody has to make do. That's also why the Jedi are so important, because the Jedi kind of give you that additional factor. They're one person, but they actually are worth many men. So they give you the ability to take on a superior force and beat it because of that. That and the fact the clone troops are very good. They're top troops. Okay, so that's the first one. The second part of the Ryloth one is after they've broken the blockade. Now their ships are starting to land. And you start. You can start.
They land, and then they get ambushed, and then they get sent out to scout, and not much happens in this one.
A lot happens in this one. This is the one with Nara in it.
Right?
This is the one with the little girl in it.
Yeah, not much happens. Two clones go out and find one girl, And meanwhile, everyone else is sitting back and discussing a plan that doesn't happen until the third episode. And so the droid is spying on them, getting all the good plans, and apparently, figuring out and sabotaging. But in the third episode, they get away with it anyway. So, second episode is decent. They have a little girl who has lost her parents and is very sad and it's war stricken. And he finds the parent. The end.
Okay, so that's his version of the story, and that's interesting. So they come down. First of all, it's really heavily an Obi-Wan storyline. So now Anakin and Ahsoka kind of lead the scene. The assault is led by Obi-Wan and his troops, and their attack ships. And so you see one of the lessons here that you learn about war, and they're trying to show you about war, how the civilians here are used as shields, how they're put in harm's way, and how the soldiers have to find ways not to liberate this area without a lot of civilian casualties, which is a modern problem that does happen. So they land and they take out initial parts of the robot forces, and the so what happened, but this is also about the clones. So in this episode, you really see especially two clones, Waxer and Boyle, who have to go and scout ahead into the city, and it's an abandoned city, and you see how the humanity of the clones comes through, because they rescue and save a little girl named Nara, and who, by the way, later on does survive the war, which is I was very happy about, and she actually makes it to Rebels as an adult, a young adult, and in this one, she's rescued by the Waxer and Boyle, and for a short time, they're like her two parents, they're like her two fathers, or if you want to put it that way, or whatever, and they go out of their way to make sure that she's okay, including when she runs away at one point, they follow her, run after her to make sure she's safe. So again, it shows that these clones aren't just these aren't just people who care about fighting. They care. They do care. They care more than I find the council cares. They care about the people there, and it does bother them that when they see a little girl who's hurt, or not hurt, but who's separated from her family, and they think the family may be dead. Nara eventually brings them to what her old house was, and she tries to cry, and they try to comfort her, and they realize that this is, and then there was, oh my God, that her family could be probably all dead, and that's it. She's alone in the world, and they, the city itself is empty, and and I remember one of them say, what makes a city is the people in it, not the city itself, and without the people, it's lifeless, and it's like a ghost town, and again, these are the kind of observations that a person with a soul would make, a person who cared would make. Not a person who's robotic would make.
Like the droids that take them hostage.
If you're a robotic person, but if you have soul,
like the Jedi that freed them,
you care. Sorry, but yeah, so it shows that really well, and it was really good. And again, it has some good pieces with Obi-Wan too, as a really good. Again, it shows that he's what a great Jedi was, but you already knew that. But for me, it was the big thing was the clones, and it showed again that the humanity they had to care about a little girl, and the end shot of the second episode, which is a phenomenal shot. So she keeps calling them this term, which means brother, because they're brother to her. They are brothers, and they are brothers because this is the term they always use. We're brothers. Later on, you see in the later episodes, you do see that I think it's Boyle. Boyle has a little thing on his helmet, and it's a picture of her, that little girl. They remember. I mean, so they're not just these people that just shoot things. They care. They do care. And you have this wonderful shot at the end. Again, because they're trying to go for a World War II motif, where you see they pull back and you see the moons there, the two moons they have, and you see it's a panoramic shot the way they do it. And you see the troops moving, saying we're going to come back. They liberated this town, and they're moving on to the next town to liberate. Which again, in World War II happened a lot. They would liberate the town. They would say we'll come back, and sometimes they did. Sometimes they did. Later on after the war, some of them did come visit, and it was always very emotional. And you see the civilians waving them goodbye, and and the little girl, she says goodbye to Waxman Boyle, and they wave and they say we'll be back, and they move on to the next place to liberate, and yeah, so it was really, and from World War II standpoint, it was exactly correct, and it was a really warm piece, and again, it showed a lot of the emotions that was happening with the civilians, because in one case they do find Nara's father, so that's so at least she has some family left, but you don't see the mother or anybody else because they're all presumed dead. So this is just how it is. So that's that. You have anything else to add about this second piece? No.
Nope. The second one was good. Third one was better because the hostages are freed. Then they have the castle with the greedy guy, and he jeopardizes the entire mission for his own personal banking clan gain. And then you have their own potential civil war between the people on Ryloth, because there's one person and he's fat and he's, well fed and he's doing his own thing, bothering nobody in the Senate, and he's not representing his people well. And he's accusing the war general that's there, who's actually leading the people on his planet that he's representing. He's leading them to victory, and he's afraid that once they win their victory on Ryloth, that they're going to kick him out of the Senate. So he's like, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to do it my way. But the orange one wants them out because he doesn't want to fight the clones, and he just wants peace on his planets to be left alone. And that was a good episode. So Mace Windu does his thing. He clears out everybody, comes up with a good strategy, and it works.
So just to be clear, I found the previous episode better because I like the fact they dealt with the pain, where the clones dealt with the pain of the civilians and internalized that. And I thought it was really interesting. The third episode of the final is when they basically get to the fortress, the capital of the city itself, and they have to clear it. That's the last place they have to go. They clear the rest of the planet. They have to clear that. So they have to meet with the rebels, this rebel group, and because they need the rebels to help, they don't have enough troops to take this by themselves. So they have to make peace. You have two governments. You have the government in exile, well, not the government in exile, but the government back at Coruscant, which is one government, but it's not in touch with its own people and the rebel leaders who are there now, and they have to make an agreement between the two of them about, they don't want to have another occupation after this, but by clone troopers. They don't want to have a dictatorship by either by the rebel forces, or Coruscant. They want democracy again. So that's what they want. So it's the political dialogue that has to happen historically when you're trying to liberate a nation, which is that all the different factions have to agree in basic terms what's going to happen for the next thing after the war is over. After liberation, what do we do now? They try to deal with that question. And that's part of the problem in the third episode. That initially why there's so much trouble for a while, because they can't agree. Eventually they do, with the realization that if they don't, they won't have anything to liberate. I mean, it'll be gone. And the robot forces react by bombing civilian targets. Again, they're trying to show this how civilians are caught in the crossfire and are being used as weapons, or as weapons of almost terror, if you want, to be terrorized by in this case, bombers, and just bombing the crap out of them and killing them, because they're trying to they're trying to make them pay for daring to be liberated. So and again, as a warning to, if you do this again, we'll keep bombing and killing more of your people. So it had one brilliant piece in it with Mace Windu, which is almost like a piece of silence and in slow motion. It shows what a brilliant general, brilliant Jedi, I should say, Mace Windu was. And you see, his power to take the bridge, and all he does is just really well done. And they take the place and they capture the last guy from the Techno clan there.
And it shows that the droids are actually capable of backstabbing, because the droid doesn't wait up for the guy that disobeyed Dooku's orders and tells Dooku that he didn't make the...
But remember, he was also a higher functioning droid. Mm-hmm. The lower functionings wouldn't have done that, but the higher functionings are capable of deception.
More strategic.
Yeah. So that was it. But it was a great arc, and I just thought it was an amazing arc, and it was, all the battle scenes were done really well. And the land battles that you have in the third film of the arc is really good, as well. There were the second one too, but the third one was really done as well. And it was also all done just in a great way, which showed all these different Jedi, different parts of the show, and it showed civilian casualties. It showed the cost of war. It showed how, again, the clones, how sympathetic they are to the problems that civilians are having, and all of it. And I'm glad they did it. And again, this is why I like the series. The series gets me so caught up, and I'm not the only one. I've had a friend I talked to online about it. She's the same thing, which is that, hey, we're happy that we look up. She does. We look up. Did this one survive? That, because it's important. Because they realize the war is becoming this encompassing thing, and you really kind of wonder, did this one survive? Did that one survive? It becomes a thing where I want to know if they did. And I hope they do it. Because a lot of them were victims, and you wanted to see that they survived. And in this case, Nara did. She survived. At least the rebels. They're still alive now in the rebels one. I mean, it's third season, so we'll see. But you know, but it's nice to know. And as I say, that's how compelling the characters were, that I would, and my friend online would look up, did this one survive or that one survive? That I've never done that. I don't generally do. Couldn't care. But the show is done so well, and the characters are so humanized, and there's so much real humanity behind all what goes on, that you do care. And that's why the show Clone Wars is really great. Underrated show nobody knows about, but it's a really brilliant show. You know.
Everyone knows about it.
Well, it was always called a kid show. I don't think it didn't get as much publicity as it needed to get to be like a bigger show that it could have been. Yeah. Anyway, so that's it. I give it a 5 out of 5. What'd you give it?
4 tentacle heads out of 5, because the first episode takes too long, because it's just Ahsoka and Anakin. They're both like,
What? Oh,
the first one. I don't have a problem with the second and the third one. The first one is the problem, because they take too long to realize that Ahsoka has the potential inside her, and they have to take the whole episode to have her like man up or come to the challenge.
I understand that. Well, I give it a 5 out of 5, as I said before.
It was a great campaign, and I agree. It was probably the greatest arc of the first season.
Yeah, and as I said, I think it's one of the best arcs of the series, period. But that's me. Anyway, okay, so till next time, this is Men Who Chase Geese saying goodbye and good luck and all that. Take care.